You know, I saw that thing and the memories that flooded back and the thoughts that just overwhelmed me for a little while there. It was almost like I got dizzy. I'm serious. And I got a chair and unfolded and sat down and just thought about it. And then I read the whole thing and time just went past, I don't know how long, the true sense of deja vu, you know, in the real meaning of it. I was back, I was like I'd been through this before. And I thought, you know, I don't think anybody has maybe written about football in the way that I would like to do it. And I'm not sure if anybody has ever kept a diary before, you know, you're paid to keep a diary and before it's become, you know, the trendy thing, maybe ESPN or something. This is just an innocent guy who was just 22 years old in a training camp. And I thought, you can't duplicate this. Hey, maybe other people would be interested. I like the title a lot, Like a Rose. There was actually a wide receiver at the time I was playing. He was a little bit ahead of me. His name was Carlos Alvarez from the University of Florida. And he went on to be a pretty successful businessman or lawyer or something like that. But he was an All-American, and at some point somebody asked him about football because he wasn't the biggest guy in the world and he knew football was going to end. And they said, what does football mean to you? What is football? What is it like? And he said, football is like a rose. And then he went on to kind of explain that. But I love the ambiguity and the ambivalence of that imagery. It wasn't that it was like a rose that is just this beautiful bouquet. There's also thorns on a rose. He went on to say that it's nice, but it's not essential. He had a lot of different illusions about the actual sport of football. I thought, you know what? That's pretty thoughtful. I like that. And that kind of reminded me of the way that I feel about the game. Football has so many aspects to it, and so often we see just the wonderful heroic side to it, or we see the terrible negative side to it. We know about the injuries. We know about the guys that make it to the Hall of Fame. We know about the scores. We know about the pain of practices. And we know about the joy of victory and, as they say, the agony of defeat. But along with it is so much else. It's like the petals of a rose. There are so many layers to it. It's what a boy, a young man wants to do. Why? How can you fully explain this? I've often theorized that football would have come along one way or the other. It was going to occur because young men were going to demand it. And along with that are all the ambiguous parts of it. You can be damaged by football, but you can learn wonderful things. You can win at football, have the grandest triumph. You can have the worst defeat. I mean, here it is, decades later, and I can't forget for an instant me falling to the turf and being beaten for the game-winning touchdown in the East-West Shrine game. It's there, it's running like a montage every time I'm walking down the street, and he'd say, get over it, what's the big deal, Rick? Well, you know, it was a big deal, and it still is a big deal. There's probably nobody else on the planet other than Mel Gray and Dan Pastorini who even remember it, except I do. So that's like a rose. The thorns, obviously, the ways you can be stabbed and hurt by it. But then there's the odor, the perfume that permeates everything. It's just it's a very layered experience. I don't think football ever will get that mythic treatment. Certainly not that baseball receives, and also golf has received, and at certain times long distance running and other sports. There's something about football that is just too primitive almost to become that sort of father and son playing catch, the kind of the beautiful, wonderful, glorious fairway as you're walking down that the sun is setting and you hit that perfect drive. It is something that is more brutal, and yet in the brutal aspect of it, there's something more fundamental. And it's hard to capture. It's very easy to capture those slow motion hits, but it's hard to capture the meaning of two opponents going against each other and the almost transcendent competition that you have. And then the teamwork. When you're playing a football game and it's really complicated and it's 4th and 1 and you're on the line somewhere, wherever you are, on either side of the ball, you have no idea what's going on around you. You literally have to look at the film later to find out what happened. If you're down on the line, you have no idea what the defensive back is doing. If you're a defensive back, you have no idea what the offensive lineman is doing. The quarterback might be the only person that has any sense, any semblance of an idea of what's going on. So that's hard to capture. That's hard to give that kind of mythic quality that you can very easily give to baseball. But I think that with this book, I was trying to do a little dignity to the game of football that I'm not sure has really been done to it.